a world where we have everything and it's still not enough, we're often left wondering, is this really it?
Deep inside, you know there's more to life. You're ready to leave behind the old push your way through and claim the deeper, more meaningful life that's calling you.
That's what we invite you to explore with us.
We're your hosts,
Stephanie Allen
and Marin Oslak. And this is the Soulful Leader Podcast.
Yay! Hi, welcome to the Soulful Leader Podcast. This is Stephanie. I'm here with Marin, and I'm super excited because we are unpacking a little bit of what we talked about last week, which was about inner mastery and why, what it is and why it's important. And it just really occurs to me, boy, isn't it interesting? Like when you start to have an awareness of something you want to talk about, then it's like everything in the universe happens to bring up like your table of contents about what you're going to really talk about. And that's kind of what happened. It's really interesting. I'm going to start with a personal story that literally happened.
It's kind of like, when you go shopping for a car and you've never noticed that particular car, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, they're everywhere.
I know.
Right? It's your reticular activating system actually zooming in on those things that, like, oh, you want to know more about that? Here, let me show you.
Yeah, it's almost like be careful what you wish for, because the universe will provide it. So you want to have some sort of clarity and articulation around what it is you want, so that it comes in a way that surprises and delights you instead of like causes you pain and suffering.
Right.
So I'm going to start with a little story that just really leads into some of the powerful reasons of why inner mastery has been so important to me. This morning I had the luxury of, for a while, actually had a luxury of having a morning off that I could do a little bit more of my inner mastery practices. And, just had such a wonderful time. And I went outside to take out the garbage, and I tripped. And I landed in a really funky position that caused my arm to break. And as I'm laying there, feeling, am I going to either poop my pants or throw up, or what do I do? Because I'm single, I live alone, and I didn't have my phone on me. Help, I've fallen and I can't get up kind of feeling. I just started to automatically default to the natural practices that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, I called my mom. Thank God I still have my mom. I'm really grateful. So I called my mom, because that's what we always do. We call our mom, even if they're not alive anymore. We still call her mom. I want my mom in our own hearts, I swear. Anyway, she was able to come over and took me right up to the hospital. And, I live in Canada, and we kind of have this belief system that our medical system takes a long time, doesn't cost any money, but it takes a long time, and it may not always be the best care. And I think that is a bunch of hooey-pooey for me. I'm so fortunate that I went up this morning, and within an hour I had an x-ray, saw the doctor, got the diagnosis, got a cast on it, and I was released. And it cost me nothing. I was very grateful. And the beauty of it is how I was treated. It was with such kindness. Now, why I say this is because one of the side effects, I like to call it, of doing your own inner work is that you have space inside yourself to listen and to respond rather than just react and go into, I call it the cockapoo-ness stories. It's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It's my right hand. I'm right-handed. I have a cast on for 6 weeks. I can't work body work, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I could gone down that dark alley for a long, long time. And I laugh because you're making a difference in people's lives when the very people that I had to call and cancel for today are actually feeding me back the higher story of what I would have told them.
Yeah.
And for example, the doctor that looked after me, he said, you got a clean break. If you're going to break your arm, this is probably the best one to break, because it's really clean. You're not going to need surgery. And I'll see you in 4 weeks kind of thing. And my client was saying, I wonder what the universe has for you for the next 6 weeks. And of course, I talked to Marin today, and Marin, of course, reminded me to say, you got a clean break. you have a break, an opportunity to then learn or be or do or be available for what wants to happen.
And I think it's so important that 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 mental shift from this happened to me to this happened for me, which can be so hard
Oh,
when it impacts all of the things that you were talking about, right? So there is a downline impact, and there are so many effects from it's your right hand. You work on people's bodies for a living. There's like so many
hmm
levels of things that people may not realize that this actually impacts you or impacts your life. And keeping that attunement, which is because we both do regular practices.
hmm
It was funny because earlier when I was talking to Stephanie, I said, my friend Stephanie happens to be this Stephanie. The thing she always says is we do our practices when we don't need them so that they're
hmm
there for us when we do. And I just want to share like the things that I witnessed
hmm
when I heard the story today was the first thing I noticed was that her experience with the Canadian healthcare system was very different than most people's experience there. And
Absolutely.
that's not an accident. It is a gift. There's something to be grateful for. And she does regular practices to set herself up internally.
hmm
And so she literally doesn't live in the world that most people live in. So her experience is not what most people experience.
Yeah, it's so interesting because as my mother's driving me to the emergency room, um, her reality is like, now don't be quiet and nice. Like, you need to let them know that you're in a lot of pain. I'm like, oh, you mean don't stuff my emotion and just suck it up and be a nice Canadian? And then she said, and also don't be mean, don't be. And it was interesting because there's a sign just as you go into the emergency room area, and it says, "We understand you're hurt. Don't hurt those who are trying to help you." And I'm like, how that's so true, isn't it? It's like hurt people hurt people. We don't mean
Right.
to, but I mean, 30 years working with chronic pain with individuals, it does change one's personality. You can't help it. You're sensitive, you're hurting, you don't have a lot of space, you're reactive. I get it. I totally get it. But my experience, what was happening is like when I went in there, I was like, no, I'm not going to sit down and be quiet. I'm going to cry because it hurts and I'm going to let those tears roll. I'm going to breathe through it. I have practices that I'm going to do. I'm not over dramatizing it. I'm not like, oh, like I'm not, although I felt like that sometimes, but I'm just like I am present with it. And I was using my imagination and I know the bones what they look like in my hand, so I was like imagining them they are healthy and free and I was breathing to it. I was present and I was realizing like the old me would not ask for help. The old me would not have surrendered. The old me would have pushed through. I would have been either a victim, oh poor me, now I can't work for 6 months, 6 weeks or whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to feel this. I need to feel it because if we don't feel, we don't heal. And I think that's a really scary thing in our society because what happens when you don't feel, you also push it out or inwardly implode. And what I mean, and you see this in, you
Yeah.
know,
We think
we,
that if we push it
yeah.
down, it goes away. Like, oh, it's
Oh
all
God.
gone.
Oh
I
hell
don't need to worry
no.
about that.
Oh hell no, it does not go away, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I mean, it's so interesting because I do a lot of I do a lot of sports. Growing up, I've done a lot of sports, like not even just like regular sports. I mean, I do kind of ridiculous sports like surfing and gymnastics and snowboarding. Like I don't do like, oh, let's just go for a nice leisurely walk or, I'm usually hanging upside down somewhere or flipping out doing something. And I've never broken a bone until now. And I've been a fairly highly competitive athlete in my youth, never broke a bone. And I think about all of those times that I was doing these high level, get out of your body extreme sports, I think because I really needed to feel. I didn't have a way to really work with my emotional. And so that gave me permission to really, like, I could yell at the sports teams. I could, I could get out my energy, that I was suppressing. And of course, I don't do that so much anymore. I still snowboard, but I don't do a whole lot of the other high level adventure sports. But I know the value of emotionally letting it out. And it's funny because now I can't do my hands on body work, which I will tell you honestly is such we can do physical things to help heal our bodies and our, and whether it's cancer, whether it's a broken bone, whether it's a fever, there's a lot of things that physical really, really will help. But what I find the most impactful is when you go in and you actually do the emotional work
Yeah.
or the mental work, meaning,
Mm.
the mind, clearing the mind and what,
The
the inner
belief
narrative.
systems around it,
Yes,
right? The
yes,
stories we tell ourselves. What's the higher story, you know?
you got it. When we can actually get into that level is when you have true healing.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
you
what I
can,
was feeling today. It's like, man, I'm going to let this out. Because if I don't let it out now, I'm going to have to deal with it as chronic pain a year from now, 10 years from now. And you know what? I got things to do. I have really a great life. I got things to do, people to help, places to go, things to learn. I don't want that to be in my way of joy and happiness.
so I love that you bring that up because, like at the end of the last podcast, we are talking about like these five kind of areas that we wanted to discuss around inner mastery. And one of them is clarity of purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
there's two things that I want to say about that. First of all, when you're clear about your purpose, and what you just said is, this isn't going to drag me down because I got things to do. I like,
Mm-hmm.
you're so clear that there's a reason that you're on this planet. And like, okay, so this is a part of my reality. And you know what? This happened for me, not to me, which means, okay, great. So now what from a higher perspective
Yeah.
instead of oh God, now what? Right? That type of what we're used to when we say now what.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that clarity of purpose going into it. And then the result of that inner space clearing, the inner mastery when we do our inner work. And you may not even know what that means, and that's what we talk about a lot. And we have a course coming up called Inner Mastery, so it's something that you might be interested in joining. And when we do that inner work and we become inner mastery, masterful inwardly, that clarity of purpose gets clearer. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like this virtuous circle where you get clearer on your purpose and things go more smoothly in your outer world. And then you get clearer on your purpose and things go more smoothly, even when you have something that's an oopsie, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, frick, I just broke my wrist. Like, to have the doctor say to you, well, if you're going to do it, this is the easiest way to have done it, right?
Yeah,
And
this is the clearest break to have.
right. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, that's what I mean by it won't be a, I want to say it won't be a perfect life, and yet it will be, meaning that it's not that there won't be any challenges or any
Mm-hmm.
broken bones or any issues along the way. It just is that there will be joy with it. That sounds like a really strange thing to
Yeah.
say.
Well, it's like if internally you're full with thoughts and fears and emotions that you don't have an outlet for, meaning you haven't got someone to talk to about it that can just hold space to listen, or you haven't got a practice to be able to move it through you, then it becomes toxic inside of
Yeah.
ourselves.
It literally backs up inside of
It
us.
does, and it creates internal inflammation. And it will impede your healing process tremendously. But then if you actually start to feel your feelings, that's called flow. And if you think of a water or river of flow, when it moves, it purifies it. It cleans the water so you're able to drink it. It's no longer toxic. And just like that sign in the hospital that I saw, please don't, we understand you're hurt. Don't hurt others,
Right.
with
We
your
don't need to
words.
take it out on
We're
people.
trying to help you.
Right.
We're here to help you help. You know, I realize that like we don't have a way to console ourselves. We don't have a way to work with other emotions, so we suppress it. And then it gets pushed out or pushed down. And there's so much that goes on in our world. I mean, take any leader, any leader. I mean, even in the hospital today, like a doctor would have been a leader in that hospital. That I was amazed. I didn't know this doctor. He happened to be doing a locum, and he came in. He was the most calm, quiet, gentle. The way he held my arm was so kind, and there was a sense of. I already had a sense of peace when he walked in. Like it was just like, oh wow, he really held a healing space.
Mm.
And I could tell how his nurse that came with him, how she spoke to him and how he spoke to her. There was such an air of respect and kindness between the two of them. That, I mean, she even said, "Oh, anything for you, absolutely. I'll totally do that for you." Like you could just tell her heart was so compassionate. And I'm like, that's the key. So when hurt people because they don't mean to, healed people create a surrounding, an area, a culture to actually create great healing to happen.
Mm. I
And that's why
love
I say,
that.
we can look out at other leaders, we project onto them. And sometimes we have leaders who behave badly. And it can give us kind of an unconscious permission to also behave badly,
Yes.
right? But we can also have really great leaders who, like this doctor that I had the experience with, who was so kind and so respectful, and you could tell he was like a healthy virus because you could tell everybody around him was just being completely infected by him, in
Yeah.
the best beautiful way.
It reminds me of years ago, there was a movie called Pay It Forward.
Mm.
And, it's like doing small things that other people don't expect, like paying for the person behind you's coffee and then leaving. I mean, so that it's not like, hey, look what I did, ha ha ha, right? It
Yeah,
just is like they did, like, I want to pay for the next five people's coffee. And they don't even know who did it, right? But it brightens their day and then they pass it forward and they pass it forward. So you're right, like how we choose to be in the world. And sometimes it feels like it's not a choice because, like, we're hurting and
hmm,
all we can do is hurt. And then we lash out and take it out on somebody, or we shove it down and take it out on ourselves, right? Like,
exactly,
oh,
exactly.
right?
And those two ways are so dangerous.
They are.
And when I look at a leader that I want to support or be engaged with, I would look, to me, a good leader is someone who's doing the inner work.
They definitely are. They
Yeah,
have to be, right?
they have to
And
be.
that that's what we work with. That's what we do. That's what our podcast is about. That's what our courses are on. And the reason is because it does change everything in the outer
Hmm.
world. You know, we don't we don't have to keep chasing all the things out there. We literally work
Yeah,
in here and it changes both in here and out there. And we become the healthy virus to be paying it forward just by being who we are.
hmm,
Like that doctor isn't thinking about that. He just is being who is
yeah,
caring and thoughtful and aware of his surroundings, aware of his patients, aware of his nurse. Like bringing that awareness to everything that he does. And it does take practice. It takes practices. It takes a,
well,
like,
Marin, you've even said, practice does not create perfection, it creates
right.
permanence. And I think, if we're practicing something unconsciously, we don't even know what we're practicing. It's just
Mm.
random. But if we can actually look inside and start to clear out the emotional things that we've stuffed in there because we haven't felt safe, or we haven't, we don't even know that it's stuffed in there, but it's creating an infection or it's creating some discomfort. If we can start to practice to release it, I mean, it's not going to look pretty. Let me tell you, I'm standing in the outpatients or I'm standing in the emergency room and I'm not sitting, I'm breathing. I'm visualizing inside. I'm pacing. I got my arm up over my head. I'm not like like that, but I am like breathe, breathe. Like I am intentional of like I am taking care of this the best way I know that I've practiced and what I would tell my client to do.
Hmm.
And so I am now modeling it. And to me, that's leadership. Whether you're a parent, whether you're a
Yes.
teacher, whether you're any kind of a leader. Look, an older sibling, you are a leader to your younger siblings. There's always someone who's looking up to us.
Right.
And who are you when no one's looking? That's the inner mastery because that's what will come out. And are you in your cockapoo-ness of like, whoa, poor me, blah, blah, or are you in the I'm so great narcissism aspect of it? Or are you like, what are you able to find those dark parts within yourself that are hurting and to create a space, an environment for those parts to then be released with love and kindness and to acknowledge them. So like, what do I mean? I mean, there's a part of me that was inside, and I say a part of me that was like wanted to say every F word you can imagine, like everything, and was really, really, really wanting to lash out. And I had to go inside and find that part. I often use my imagination this way. So I imagine myself like a teenager because that's often where the big F bombs come from. It's my teenage years. And I go in and I talk to her and I'm like, oh man, honey, I know this really hurts. What do you need from me? What do you need?
I love that because, we think we are like this. Well, this is just who I am. I'm angry.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually a persona. It's not who you are. It's
Yeah.
something, it's an adaptation that's allowed you to, survive, which is beautiful and wonderful. And it's just a part of you. So being able to have that tool of going in and talking to the different parts of us, even just starting to acknowledge that it's only a part of you. It's not who you are. To
100%.
stop identifying with it, right?
And if we don't go in and start looking at those parts, we become very fragmented.
Mm.
So then there's all of these parts of you that are fragmented, that are not connected, that are actually draining energy from you. So you're fatigued, whether it's physically and mentally or emotionally. You're short tempered, you're irritated with yourself, you're irritated with others. Uh, you don't have space in your heart or in your awareness to then say, can I make a true decision that is
Mm.
healthy for me? And and like I said, when I isolate that part and I say, I don't say what do you need, because that 14-year-old self within myself is going to tell you all kinds of crazy stuff. I say, what do you need from me? Me being this this centered part that is loving. Like what?
Mm.
Because if it says, well, I need mom to do this, or I need the doctor to do that, or I need, I don't know, the healthcare system to be like this. Well, I can't change any of that.
Right. That's stuff we
I
can't
I can't
control.
change that. But if I
Mm.
ask that part, what do you need specifically from me? Sometimes I always laugh because sometimes that part inside of me kind of does it like a double take and like, what, you're talking to me? Like for the first time you actually are asking me what I need? Really? And sometimes it doesn't know because sometimes it just likes to complain. And that's exactly it. Sometimes it just says, I just need to complain. I just need you to listen. I can do that.
Great. I can do
Cool.
that.
Cool. And this is where inner guidance comes from. It's not about intuition. It's about inner guidance. And that's a lot different about being open to what wants to happen for you, not based on an intuition of something that you've built practices with and that you just have a real skill with. This can come out of like left field.
Yeah.
Go here, do this. Like, so interesting, right? And we don't always give ourselves the love and kindness and the empowerment that we actually do have everything we need within us. I mean, those are so ancient mysticism sayings, like, the whole world resides from within you. Everything you need. And I was like, when I was younger, I was like, what does that mean? Like, that's like, how do I get it? Where's the treasure? I don't understand. But often, like, when you have something that breaks, whether it's a limb that I had this morning, or your heart, or your mind, or something that's it's breaking open.
Mm.
Something is letting go so that you can let come. But we have to practice that presence of hope and possibility. Otherwise, we're going to be emotionally dysregulated. And my God, we're seeing so much in this world today about people being emotionally dysregulated.
Yeah.
Like the drama and the trauma and the performances and how that just keeps escalating and that it triggers. It's like the domino effect. It's just everybody who reads it or what, my gosh, if you're on social media, it's just like one trauma story after another, or people even like the false news of like trying to hook each other. And I'm like,
Right.
it's literally trying to grab your emotional attention so that it can control you.
Right.
Because when we are emotionally dysregulated, we literally will fall for everything and anything. And we
We're
will say, and
vulnerable.
we're going to say, do things that we more than likely are not the highest of our truth of who we are.
Yeah.
So if we can calm that, yeah, it opens up to clarity of purpose. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of my life?
And it opens us to being the positive virus.
Yeah,
Like we become the antidote. We are the antidote. So it's time for us to step into that. And it does require the inner journey.
100%. Like, I think, how many people do you know suffer from anxiety or
Mm.
loneliness, depression? Like, so many people, so
Yeah.
many. And that to me is a warning sign of that we are full and we need a way to let those emotions out. And if they don't come out in a way with practices and mastery and support system of lovely, wonderful people around you, it's going to come out pretty ugly.
Yeah. And we're seeing that.
And we're seeing that too.
So it is, and, it's like sometimes when I think in those terms, I get overwhelmed and I bring it back to what can I do?
Hmm.
And one of the most powerful things that I can do, actually, the most powerful thing that I can do is do the work inside myself. Because as above, so below, like what's inside of me is also what's out there. What's out there is
Hmm.
also inside of me. So as I heal myself, I literally, like I said before, become the antidote and I start to heal the world. And that's my journey. And I think it's a lot of other people's journeys as well. It just is not, we haven't been taught that. So that's what we do. And our clarity of purpose, like we're really clear that that's what we bring to the table. And it's not for everybody. And it may be something that speaks to you, meaning our audience out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, we could either wait till the worst things happen
Yeah.
and wake up that way, or we can choose it. And actually, when things aren't so pleasant, like breaking your arm, you have
Have a
something that
process.
you have something that you can rest in and find the treasure with. Like I talk about this all the time. So I had a client the other day and I said, she suffers from a lot of pain. I said, sometimes when pain, and this is a lot of the mystical traditional beliefs will say, when pain awakens in your body, and you can't really pinpoint as to, well, I didn't really do anything. Maybe I slept wrong. I don't know. Like I can't really pinpoint anything. It's often because there's a buried treasure within you.
Hmm.
And as our culture in the West, we don't have a process or a path to actually go inward to unveil that treasure hunt.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what inner mastery is all about, is finding that inner treasure so that you can share it with yourself, with the world, with those you love. And in doing so, you're right, it becomes a remedy. And it becomes infectious because then other people will say, oh my God, that's kind of what one of my clients said today. I was supposed to see her tomorrow night. And I said, look, I got to rebook you. And she goes, oh, what happened? She didn't even see my arm in the cast. I said, I raised my arm. She goes, when did you do that? I said, about an hour and a half ago. And she goes, what are you doing out here? I'm like, well, I didn't want to miss this event that, we were all at. And she said, "Oh my God, Stephanie, only you would be someone who was like, you know, you're self-employed. My whole life is based on my using both my hands." And she said, "And only you'll probably completely come up with something amazing in these next 6 weeks." I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's where I'm going to put my time and attention." But I've
Yeah.
had to have practices. It doesn't just happen. I've had 30 years of practices of me talking to other people about, well, now I got to practice what I preach. And I plan on it.
Yeah, we're excited to see what comes out of
Sure.
that. And we'll,
I'll
so
keep you
you guys
posted.
can, right, tune back into the Soulful Leader podcast or join our email list because who knows, we might do a blog post about it. And if you join our email list, you can get our free download and all of that stuff. Um, yeah, so we would love to have you join us for more things. Like I said, we do have an inner mastery class coming up. If you're listening to this at some point in the future, we might have one coming up for you too. But check our website, which is TSLP, the letters TSLP for the Soulful Leader podcast or the Soulful Leader project, and it's .life. So TSLP.life. Um, and then subscribe and get notified every time we have a podcast that drops. And then also, you can join us on our Facebook group and our LinkedIn group, both of which are the Soulful Leader. So we'll be chatting a little bit more about some more of the benefits of inner mastery next week. We hope you'll join us. Thanks so much.
And that wraps up another episode of the Soulful Leader podcast with your hosts, Stephanie Allen
And Marin Oslac. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to dive deeper, head over to our website at thesoulfulleaderpodcast.com.
Until next time.